Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes.
Okay, so welcome. We, like Radha Raman Prabhu was mentioning, we have a very special guest, reflected in how many devotees came to the program today and how many devotees came dressed in a dhoti and kurta today. We're really fortunate to have His Holiness Keshava Maharaj here. Keshava Maharaj has been coming to Crawley for many years. Definitely one of the inspirations that has helped us to kick on and achieve what's been achieved so far. And for those of you that don't know, Maharaj is also an author. He's written many, many books, 20 books, I think.
Getting there.
Yeah.
About 12. Yeah.
Countless courses, which so many communities around the world are using to attract people to Krishna consciousness. And yes, so many other accomplishments. We could probably spend the whole evening today speaking about that and even longer. So yeah, very grateful to have Maharaj with us today. So the topic that we promoted for today was absorption in Krishna consciousness. And the reason why we chose that topic is there's a verse in the Gita where Krishna is explaining, actually in the 12th chapter, throughout the 12th chapter, Krishna is explaining that the topmost thing is to always think of Krishna. But that's a pretty difficult thing to do. And that's essentially about absorption. And over the years, I've asked many devotees that have been practicing Krishna consciousness about what, for example, how do we learn scripture? Sometimes it's easy to forget. I read one day, forget the next. And the most consistent answer that I always got was absorption. They would use that one word. Obviously, there were other answers, but the most consistent was absorption. So that's why we chose the topic absorption today. So my first question, or if you can call it a question, is, Maharaj, if you could speak about what is absorption, how should we understand it? And for you personally, what role has absorption played in your devotional life up until now?
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everyone. So really happy to be here. And before I go into that question, I just wanted to share with you my experience. When I kind of grew up going to temples. It was part of life. As you do, go to the temple. And my conception of a temple or a religious place was like generally three things. A temple or a religious place is silent, is still, and is serious. And then I came to the Hare Krishna temple. But definitely not silent. I mean, people were like singing at the top of their voice. It definitely wasn't still, because for the first time in my life I was like, do people dance in religious places? Like, you don't dance in a temple. It's like you stay still, you sit down and you're still. So when I saw devotees dancing, that was also like, I was like, you never catch me doing that. I'm not going to do that. And my conception of a religious place was that it was very serious. It's serious business here. You repent for your sins and you make a prayer, and it's serious business. And then I came to the temple, and the Hare Krishna temple, and it was like people were like happy, overeating, rolling on the ground, smiling. And maybe just turn this a little down. I think there's a little bit of feedback. And so it was interesting for me. It gave me a whole different idea of spiritual life. And I realized when I came here to the Hare Krishna temple and I started going deeper into it, that this is really like a natural type of spirituality. When you're happy, what do? You sing. When you're happy, what do? You dance. And when you're happy, what do? You smile. So I said to a devotee, like, I don't know all this singing, dancing. And he said this to me. He said, but when you're happy, these are the most natural ways in which you express it. So how can it be that in a spiritual place, there's no singing, there's no dancing, there's no smiling? Then it means it's not coming from the heart. Then it means it's not something natural. And so, for me, when you talk about absorption, I think this is what absorption is. It's just something whereby you're so connected with divinity, you're so connected with God, you're so connected with Krishna, that in your life you just kind of begin to see great positivity, great hope, great joy. Even in difficult times you can see that there's something better which is coming from it. And so I think absorption is the difference between ritualistic religion and dynamic spirituality. Ritualistic religion is where you kind of go through all the motions, but your mind is somewhere else, and you're kind of like, when can I get this done so I can go out and watch the football or something. But dynamic spirituality is when you're doing it, you're there, and you become so absorbed in it that you're kind of like, this is it, this is life. I don't need to go anywhere else, I don't need to do anything. The past, the future, yeah, whatever may come, but I'm here, and it's fun, and it is satisfying my heart. And when we live life with that kind of absorption, then you're practicing dynamic spirituality. So those are some thoughts on absorption.
So how do you know whether you're practicing in an absorbed way as opposed to a ritualistic way? Like sometimes it can be, we just go with emotions, we get up every day, we do our practice. What are the symptoms of that we're on the right track, that we are becoming absorbed in our practice, in our Krishna consciousness?
Okay, so how do you know you are not slipping into mechanical, ritualistic practice? I think the first and the most important is that when you're doing something mechanically, you're not mindful of who you're doing it for and why you're doing it. It's almost like you just kind of end up, like there's this story that once a man was driving on a road and he saw two people, and it was the strangest sight because they both had a spade, and one was digging it, making a hole, putting the dirt on one side, and the other guy straight after was taking the same dirt and putting it back in the hole. So he was like, what's this? So he drove by, he came back. 1 hour later, they were doing the same thing. This guy was digging up and the other guy was digging. So he came up to them, he goes, what are you guys doing? So they said, we're planting trees. But the third guy who puts the seed in is off sick today. But we got to do our job. The show must go on. So this person said, are you guys crazy? Like, if the person who's putting the seed in isn't here, it's just the motion. You're just going through the motion. You have no idea why you're doing what you're doing. So oftentimes, I say temples are the most interesting place because it's the place in which people come and most people have no idea what they're doing there. It's like when everyone goes into a supermarket, everyone's clear, I've come here to buy something. When you go to a doctor, everyone's clear, I've come here to get better. But people coming to a temple, it is all variety of reasons why someone may come here, and most of them may not be connected to what a temple is actually meant for. And so I think the first and most fundamental thing is when you're doing any spiritual practice, ask yourself the question, do I know who I'm doing this for and why I'm doing it? And am I mindful of that when I'm doing it? If I'm not, then I may be turning into a robot. So I think that's one, definitely. I think a second one, that you're becoming mechanical and ritualistic in what you're doing, is you don't prioritize that activity in the sense of giving it the best time in your day, the quality attention that it deserves. If you just end up fitting in your spiritual practice, fitting in your chanting, fitting in your reading somewhere, wherever you can find some space, you might find that you're slipping into mechanical practice, because if you're practicing something dynamically in an absorbed way, then you give it the priority time in your life. And you give yourself the opportunity to give it the best attention you can. A third characteristic that you may be becoming mechanical in your spirituality is that you have no plans of how to increase it, how to improve it, how to actually enhance and evolve it so that it can become bigger and better. A dynamic spiritualist always looks at themselves and thinks, it's not enough. I'm not doing enough. In the Niti Shastra it said there's 3 things you should be satisfied with and 3 things you should always be dissatisfied with. The 3 things you should be satisfied with is, number 1, the person you married. Number 2, the amount of money you have in your bank. And number 3, whatever food lands on your plate. The third one was no problem today. That was good. But some days you may look and you go like, be satisfied, whatever. So these are the 3 things you should always be satisfied with. But there's said to be 3 things you should always be dissatisfied with. Number 1, your meditation in chanting on the holy names of Krishna. Always dissatisfied. I got to do better. I got to do better. Number 2, your reading and your grasp of spiritual wisdom. You should never think, I know it. I got it. I am knowing everything. Once I met a person from Hindu background on there. So I said, we are giving out the Bhagavad Gita. I am knowing. I am knowing everything. So I looked at them, I said, my favorite chapter is the 19th. What is your one? He said, yeah, 19th, mine too, mine too. I said, all right. So you should never think. Arjun never thought he knew it all. Arjun was so wise. He grew up in a Kshatriya family. He grew up with Krishna. But he came in front of Krishna and he said, Krishna, I don't know. Socrates, he said, my wisdom is that I know I don't know. So one should never think, I know it all. I have more to learn. Always dissatisfied with how much wisdom they have. Need more. And the third thing you should always be dissatisfied with is your charity. No, I haven't given enough. I should give more. One never feels it's enough. I should always, there's more. Krishna has done so much for me. I'm not reciprocating. I should give more. I'm not dropping any hints here, by the way. But if you want to give more, you can. Once a priest, he came in front of the congregation. He said, we need to build a new church. It's cost $1 million. There's good news and bad news. The good news is that the money is already there. The bad news is it's still in your pocket.
I haven't told Maharaj to speak.
These are not subliminal messages. So mechanical practice means I'm satisfied. I'm doing what I'm doing enough. But dynamic spiritualistic, it's never enough. I need to do more. Srila Prabhupada never rested. It wasn't enough. I've opened 1 temple. No, he traveled the world opening hundreds. I've translated 1 book. It wasn't enough. I had got to do more. So, like this, we could give a whole class on how to understand whether you've become mechanical. And this is the problem with most people who connect with a spiritual path, is that in the beginning they're very dynamic. But as time goes by, there's a tendency to become very, very mechanical. And so, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, so that's nice. It's all well and good. You are a renunciate. You have no responsibility.
Come and join me.
You have no, I mean, all of the people here You know, they have families, they have jobs. You know, that's real life. So, you know, it's nice to be absorbed, you know, when you've got nothing else going on. So how would you say one can tackle all those other issues as well as being
in the real world?
Yeah, in the real world.
In the real world. The Crawley is the real world. Once one of my uncles, after I joined the temple and I became a monk, one of my uncles, he came to me and he goes, why don't you get a real job? So I said, I got a job. He said, what kind of job do you? I said, Srila Prabhupada is my boss. He said, this is not a real job. And I said, this is a job. He said, if this is a job, what's your salary? How much are they paying you? I looked at him, I said, I don't know about the salary, but the retirement plan is out of this world. So, in one sense, I humbly submit to you that I also kind of live in the real world. Today I was in 4 management meetings before coming to Crawley. I was happy to come to Crawley, you can imagine. So I had to deal with issues, with problems, with fundraising. Someone wants me to raise £50,000 for them. I'm like, hello? I mean, I'm the Swami. No, we need money. So even us as monks, we live as engaged monks, we live in the world, we connect, we also deal with chaos. Anyone who lives in this world, you can't escape chaos. It's just part of life. But for sure, all of you do live complex lives. That's why I didn't go down that route. No, I'm only joking. But you do have complex lives. You have families, you have duties, you have responsibilities, and all of it takes time. You may sit down to chant and then the boiler packs up and then you got to figure it out, or a family relationship needs time, and it's tough, it's difficult. But the beauty of spiritual life is that it's all to do with attention and intention. Even if you have very little time in your life, but you use that time purposefully and you use that time wisely, then what will happen is 2 things. The first thing is that you'll please Krishna as much as anyone else who has more time, because you're not wasting any time. Whatever you do have, you're utilizing it appropriately. And the second thing that will happen, you can try. If you get to a point in your life where you don't waste any time, if you can go to bed at night and look Krishna in the eyes and say, Krishna, I didn't waste any time. You know, something magical will start happening in your life. Krishna will start giving you more time. Sometimes people tell me, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. I said, first, are you utilizing the time that you do have? Because if time is utilized, time expands. Because Krishna says, Kalosmi, time I am. Oppenheimer, he also quoted that verse when the atom bomb went off. But yes, Krishna says, I'm time. So first thing is that it's not about the volume of time you have, but it's about how you utilize the time you have, and the intention and the attention. And if you do that, then what you will find is that you'll find more and more time. That's the first thing. So if you're living in the world and you work a 50-hour week, then you should really be working harder, because it should be 60. If you're working a 50 or 60-hour week and you feel like you don't have time, then at least utilize the time that you do have. And then what you'll actually find is that other opportunities open up. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it's really useful in your spiritual journey not to compartmentalize your life. This is my material stuff and this is my spiritual stuff. This is me going to work because I have to look at that miserable boss all day just to get the pay packet. And then once I've got the money, then I'll be able to go and do this spiritually. Try not to compartmentalize your life, but see how everything is part of your spiritual journey. When you go to work, you can be spiritual. You can create a spiritual environment around you. You can create a remembrance of Krishna around you even while you're at work. You can tell people about Krishna. You can do all kinds of things by which you remember even Krishna or spiritual life even in those situations. So try to integrate everything. Integrate your career, integrate your family life, integrate your hobbies. Integrate everything so that it contributes to your Krishna consciousness. And then what you'll find is that you're living a very spiritual life even though you're living in the world. Does that help?
Yes, nice. One of the struggles that many people have, or mental blocks, is they feel compared to many others, they've come to Krishna consciousness quite late. And therefore they're set in their ways and their habits, and they've kind of given up before they started. What kind of advice or encouragement could you give to someone that's in that position where they feel, I've passed it, I've missed the boat?
Srila Prabhupada started the movement at 69 years old. Sometimes I think Krishna, he engineered Srila Prabhupada's life in such a way that nobody can have any more excuses left. Because if someone says, I'm too old, I can't do it, Srila Prabhupada came to America at the age of 69. If someone says, my health is not good, I can't do it, well, sorry, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks on the ship when he came. If someone says, I can't do it, I don't have a stable life situation around me, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada came to America with 40 rupees in his pocket. If someone says, I don't have good spiritual company around me, I don't have association, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada came to America knowing nobody and was living in the Lower East Side of New York. That's like worse than Wembley, which is where I grew up, Austin. So no, there's no more excuses. CNN actually did a news report, like the 50 most successful people, the 10 most successful people who started their career after 50, and they put Srila Prabhupada there. So what is old? What is old? I'm 43, am I old?
Well, I'm 43, I'm not old.
Okay, we're not old. We're not old. We're not old, we're young. What's old? 40, 50? Someone said to me, 40 is the youth of old age. So what's old? One time Srila Prabhupada was giving sannyas to a young person, he was 20 years old. So one reporter said, sannyas is for old people. So Prabhupada looked at this young reporter and he said, sannyas is for old people? So Prabhupada looked at him and said, what does it mean to be old? So the person said, old means close to death. So Prabhupada said to the reporter, can you guarantee that you will not die before me? He said, no, I could die any moment. You could outlive me. Prabhupada said, therefore you are old, I am old, everyone is old. So in one sense, who's old? Everyone's old. Because we don't know. Life is so uncertain. At any moment, anything could show up. And then life changes overnight. Immediately we're old. Today in the Manor, they're having a memorial for Janakinath Prabhu. Many of you know he was one of our monks at the Manor. And at the age of 31, he was getting stomach pain, so he was just riding it through, thinking it was fine. And then eventually it got so acute that he had to go to the hospital. And the hospital did a test on him, and the doctor came back and showed him the scan and said, I'm sorry to tell you, you have colon cancer, stage 4. Never had a health problem in his life. And he said, you got to start living your life as though you're double your age from today. That's the world we live in. So who's old? Everyone's old. And in another sense, who's young? Everyone's young. Because jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. We're not this body. We're all spiritual beings. So we're all young, even if you're in an old body. So it doesn't matter. If you're young, you have certain advantages. You have health, you have energy. But if you're old, you also have certain advantages for spirituality. You've done everything now, isn't it? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So when you're old, it's like you've seen everything of life. You don't have to go through it all now. You've seen it all. It's all behind you. Now you can just focus on the real thing. So it's a very wonderful thing. You have time on your hands. When you're young, you're so busy. Studies, social media, career. No time. When you're old, time is there. Brilliant. Use it for Krishna. So, someone may say, I can't do it, I'm old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. But no, see that there are many advantages in old age. Very nice.
Thank you. So I'll ask Maharaj one more question, and then maybe you can think about some things that you want to ask. We can open it up to the audience. So generally we hear when people first take to Krishna consciousness, the most common reason is out of distress or being beaten up by the material world. So generally people come looking for peace. Is there something that you've seen on your travels to different communities, that are there different stages where even if someone comes for peace initially, what sort of things should we see as milestones that let me change my motivation for coming, and so we can become more absorbed in our own spiritual life? So like you were saying, our practice and our lifestyle starts coming together. Is there something like that that you've seen that is a progressive journey?
Yeah, many of us in the beginning, we come because we want peace of mind. You ain't going to get that in a Hare Krishna temple. There's no peace of mind. One English poet writes something very beautiful. He says, peace is not an absence of anxiety. Peace is the presence of divinity in every situation. We think I'm going to become peaceful by removing all anxiety from my life. Good luck. Just doesn't work. When Srila Prabhupada was driving and they got stuck in a traffic jam, so Prabhupada looked out of the window and there was a sign and it said, roadworks, temporary inconvenience, permanent solutions. So Prabhupada looked at it and he started laughing and he said, the material world means temporary improvements, permanent inconvenience. You can't stop. You can't stop inconvenience, you can't stop obstacles, you can't stop anxiety, you can't stop issues. It's just going to keep coming. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Because Krishna says, Mamupetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam. This world is dukhalaya. You can't change the nature of this world. It is what it is. But what you can change is your consciousness. And so, in the beginning, one may come for peace. But when one advances in spiritual life, they no longer look for peace. You know what they look for? Service. They look for seva, selfless service to Krishna, to God, to divinity, selfless service to the devotees, selfless service to the world. Because you know what? If you fill your life with service, if you fill your life with a mood of selflessly helping others, then all of your life will immediately become joyful. If you help other people solve their problems, your problems will disappear. If you help other people become wise, you know what? You'll become wise in the process. If you help other people find happiness and love, in that endeavor, your own stock of happiness and love will expand. And therefore, you earn a life by what you earn a living by what you get in a pay packet, but you earn a life by what you give in service. And so, in the beginning, one looks for peace, but then when one realizes there is no peace in this world. But what I can do is I can fill my life with service. And when we're always looking to serve selflessly, that in that spirit we experience divinity. It's very beautiful. And then it's okay, whatever may come, one's heart is pacified.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, so I wanted to leave some time for some questions from the audience. So if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand and we can pass the mic if it reaches.
Thank you. Maharaja, if Krishna consciousness works, then why doesn't it work for me?
If Krishna consciousness works, then why doesn't it work? We have to start getting you to work. Krishna consciousness is a science. So if you perform the experiment and you perform it according to all the different elements which are given, then there can be no reason why it doesn't work. And therefore, if it's not working for you, then it means we may need to take a look at our number one, intention, number two, our attention, and number three, our action. If Krishna consciousness is not working for you, it means on one of these three levels, or usually more than one of these three, we are deficient. One may be doing all the actions, but is your attention there? One time we had a devotee who used to walk around the temple with a bead bag on his hand. 3 months later, we accidentally picked up his bead bag and found there were no beads in there. So, yes. Maybe it ain't gonna work, right? So the first thing is you got to do the action. And then once you do the action, are you present there? Are you doing it? Are you mindful? Mindfulness. You got to be present. And then even if you're present, for example, you're chanting, you're doing the action, you actually have some beads in there, and your attention is there. I'm remembering why I'm doing this, why I'm doing this. Then intention. Then you need to bring your heart into it. You know, like when you were a kid, they said like, put your heart into it. So sometimes someone can even be doing the action of Krishna consciousness with attention, but still if the heart is not involved, the intention is not devotional, you may not get the full result. And therefore, in Krishna consciousness, you have to join all three. The hand, the head, and the heart. The hand means do the practice. The head means understand what you're doing and be attentive while you're doing it. And the heart means do it with some feeling. And if you make a combination of these three, then there's no way it can't work. it has to work. I'll try it out. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Which one do you think you need to improve on? The hand, the head, or the heart?
Hand.
The hand.
Yeah, my actions are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
My heart is there, intention is there, the actions in the wrong place.
Yeah.
The wrong people.
So there you go. You have to, who you associate with makes a big difference. You know, it's like the desires of the people around you, they fuel your own desires. So you need to try to place yourself in an environment in which you can strive. You see? Otherwise, it's difficult, you know. It's like when you're in Mumbai trains. Ever been in a Mumbai train? If you're coming up to the station and you need to get out and you're blocked by all of these people, then all you need to do is wiggle your way into the right position in the carriage. And then when it comes to the station, everyone starts moving like a herd. And you don't even need to walk. They just carry you out. As long as you've positioned yourself right. I know this technique. I've done this one. I know this one. This one works. So the idea is you need to position yourself with the herd. This is the herd. This is the safest place in the world. But then when you go out there in the big wide world, you have to be careful. That doesn't mean we look at people who are not Krishna conscious and are like, no, kids, stay away, stay away. But it means you have to understand who you open up with, who you intimately connect with, because it will affect your desires and your actions. All right. Good luck. May it work for you.
So if you say your questions, then I'll just repeat it for the live Videsh.
Yeah, you kind of already answered my question with your last bit about service being key, but if you're serving people in, say, a working environment, you're trying to like fix I guess a non-diversional problem in a workspace, at what point, or is there a cut-off point where you say, I need to stop devoting too much of my energy into here because it could impact my own absorption in the holy name and my spiritual practice? Like, is there a, how do you balance that in the right way?
So the question is, if there's a non-devotional problem at work, at work, at what point do you disengage with it, where it becomes detrimental to your spiritual life?
First thing to understand is when we talk about service, there's two different levels of service. So one level of service is material service. So like I do a job, I don't know, like deliver parcels or something. I'm rendering a service to people by doing that. So that's a service, you're helping them. But then the deeper type of service is spiritual service. When you do something for someone that reconnects them to their deepest spiritual desires, their deepest spiritual aspirations. So that's what we call devotional service, right? So in one sense, yes, your work is service, but when your work incorporates service in such a way that you also give people spiritual benefit, then it's really service. So just to make that distinction so you understand that when I talk about service, I'm talking about service which not just helps people materially, but service means to actually help them to find their deepest desire, which is to connect spiritually. And yes, sometimes you also have to disconnect from service to nourish yourself. Because unless you're strong, unless you're inspired, unless you're healthy, how will you ever be able to help anyone else? If there's people who are drowning in a river and they're drowning and drowning in the river stream, then you may try to pull them out. But if you are not firmly situated on the shore yourself, then instead of pulling them out, you might also drown yourself. And so, yes, we must serve, but also we must take care of ourselves. And that taking care of yourself is not selfish, because you take care of yourself so that you can give more. And so, yes, like that. I think it's clear. So.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for some of the tips that you shared with us there, Raj. My son recently completed his first year of high school, and towards the end of the year he was sitting some exams, some tests, and although it's not new for him, it's in a different environment, it's on a different level, and he was sitting some French tests, and my French is non-existent, frankly, so I couldn't really be much help to him. We were having a conversation. I said, okay, you know what, before you open the paper, just pray to Krishna, and I hope that some of the things that you've learned are going to be there, So he went to school, he came back, and then I said, how did the test go? He said, oh, Krishna put me to voicemail, rather flippantly.
Krishna put me to voicemail.
Krishna put me, because
okay, he didn't answer. He didn't answer the call.
Hopefully he'll give you the right questions. So he kind of flippantly made this comment.
Should have told him, did you leave a voicemail?
Would have been a long one. So it got me thinking that sometimes in life we go through situations and we think, actually I prayed, I wanted an outcome. We don't always do it. Things don't always go your way. How do you kind of ensure that your enthusiasm for spiritual life and your devotion or your faith in Krishna doesn't disappear?
Sometimes we pray and Krishna doesn't seem to be attentive. Come on, what are you doing? I want a house by the sea, a color TV, a 50 million gigabyte MP3, Jaya Jagadish Hare. Come on. I'm putting more in. One Christian writer, he says something beautiful. He said, I prayed to you for wisdom, and you kept sending me people who needed help. I prayed for love, and you kept sending me service to do. I prayed to you for strength, and you kept sending me obstacles to overcome. And then he says, now I realize, God, you gave me everything I needed and nothing that I wanted. Hopefully it will never happen to you, but if you get injured on the street and you need to call an ambulance, then you ring 999. You have no idea from which direction it's going to come. So when we make a prayer to Krishna, know for sure that Krishna will answer it. But when He will answer it, how He will answer it, and in what way He will answer it, that we can't predict, because Krishna is more clever than any of us. And so sometimes Krishna may even be answering our prayers and we don't even acknowledge it. One time a man was going for an interview and he was late and he couldn't find a parking space. He was like, God, I want to find a parking space. I want to find parking space. So he's praying profusely. I'm going to be late. I need a parking space here. Anyway, he turned the corner and there was a parking space right there. And he looks up at God and he goes, don't worry, I found one. So it's amazing. We're saying He's not answering my prayers. Maybe He's answering it right in front of us, but we've got so much ego we cannot see. So, to understand the workings of God in your life requires deep devotion. Krishna is alive. Krishna is attentive. Krishna is affectionate. And Krishna is ready to reciprocate with your deepest desire. But know that Krishna is not a stereotyped God. He may do it in weird and wonderful ways. So, sometimes we pray also for the wrong things. Saint Teresa of Avila, she says, more tears were shed from prayers that were answered than from prayers that were left unanswered. We pray for so many things and then we cry when they get answered. Like one man, he was with his wife and they said, so they were both like, it was their 60 years old together. They had been married for 40 years. They were both 60 now. So it was their 60th. So the genie appeared, wow, any wish you want. So it came to the man and he said, any wish. I wish my wife was 30 years younger than me. Boom, he became 90 years old. Oh no! Oh no! They said, well, you said you wanted her to be 30 years younger. We pray for the wrong things, the things that are going to get us in trouble, the things that are again going to entangle us in this world. Therefore, sometimes Krishna will say, you know what? Better I don't answer your prayer, because I know what your deepest desire is. So, like that. Anyone else?
While you think about it, I'll ask a question. So Maharaj, one of the things that I guess becomes an inevitable thing to deal with in community, so something that's relevant for a small growing community, is familiarity. Are there any things that you can, any tips that you can give how we can avoid becoming overly familiar as we're all in the rock tumbler of spiritual life, serving together, trying to grow, going through the process of the purification of the heart, learning about our lower nature? Is there anything that you've experienced that can help us to deal with this type of difficulty?
Yeah, we very easily become familiar with each other, take each other for granted. What's really, really important in a community is to have a culture of appreciation. Every day, devotees, those around us, do very wonderful things. They exhibit very beautiful qualities. But what often happens is we never vocalize it. It's just kind of there in my mind. Oh, that was nice, he did that. But we don't say anything. The moment they do something wrong, like, it's funny how the world works, isn't it? Like if you see something good, you're just like, yes, I've noted that in my mind. I won't say it, I won't actually express it, but I've noted it. But the moment someone does something wrong, we feel the need to tell everyone. So, in progressive communities, they learn the art of how when you see something beautiful, to express it. Express it to that person. Express it to someone else. Don't you know Svayam Govind, he's so intelligent. He paid me to say that. You're such a good interviewer. Don't know about his Instagram though. No, that's even better. So just speak something nice. And then when you speak something nice, I say something nice to you about Svayam Govind. The next time you see him, that nice thing will stick in your mind. And you know what? You'll act with him in a different way. And when he sees your graciousness, then he'll feel something good about you. And then he'll tell the next person, oh, it was amazing. And then when he sees you, he'll have a different vision. And then like that, and it spreads. A culture of appreciation. They say the head should be like an ice factory and the mouth should be like a sweet factory. Keep this one cool and keep this one sweet. Because often this one gets heavy, hot, and this one, anyway. a bit chilly. Unnecessarily. So I think this is like one small practical thing that, you know, once what we used to do in the Brahmacharya ashram, all the monks, we lived together, what we used to do is we would sit in a circle, about 30 of us, however many, and we would all get a piece of paper. So say we're all in a circle, and on my paper it would say Sham Govind. And then what we would do is we would have to write down one thing that we really appreciated about you, and then we'd all get 1 minute. And then after 1 minute, we'd pass the paper this way. And then I'd get the next person's paper and the next person's. And it would go all the way around. And after half an hour, you'd have a paper in front of you with all the things that people appreciate about you. And it's not just like, oh, aggrandizement, like, oh yes, I want praise. But it was genuine, like what you genuinely value in this person. And it reinforced within us what we should be doing, how we should be living, how we should, and how the people around you actually are receiving you in a very beautiful way. And it just helps so much to understand each other. So I think one part of not becoming familiar is just to understand each other's hearts better. And a lot of that comes through the culture of sweet words. Not shallow, but actually what you appreciate. So.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. I don't know if this will reach, but we'll pass it.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the insights. I have 2 questions.
That would be double the price. Okay, let's do that one first. So there's a beautiful verse in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Bhakti pareshan ubhavo viraktir anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha prapadyamanasya yathashnata shushtusti pustikshud apayo nughasham. It's very beautiful. It explains when you eat, 3 things happen. Number 1, there's immediate pleasure on the tongue. Number 2, you feel your body becoming energized. And number 3, you feel freedom from hunger. How do you know you have eaten? Pleasure, energy, and freedom from hunger. So this analogy is given that when you similarly practice spiritual life in the right way, then just as when you get pleasure when you eat, you should feel happiness. A different type of happiness to the happiness you got out there in the world, number 1. Number 2, just like when you eat, you get energy. When you actually practice spiritual life, then you should feel the presence of God in your life. You should actually feel, oh yes, Krishna is here, He's acted, He's arranging this. You should feel that Krishna is reciprocating with you. You should feel a tangible connection and a presence of God in your life. And number 3, just like when you eat, you get freedom from hunger. When you actually practice spiritual life, then you become free from the desires for all the things out there in the world that previously were very attractive to you. Just think like, why do I want to waste my time in all of these things? They never made me happy. And now why will I put so much effort in there? I have no more faith in any of these things. I'm free from the attachments of the material world. So if these 3 qualities are there in your spiritual journey in increasing degrees, more happiness, more feeling of presence of God, and more freedom from all the material, then you can understand I'm going in the right direction. Very simple. So Krishna consciousness is real. It's not a faith. It's not a religion. It's not just something we're telling you to believe in. But it's a science. And if we practice it, we will be able to experience these very tangible things in our life. You should be a changed person. After practicing Krishna consciousness, you should be changed. once we did a retreat, and at the end of the retreat, we asked everyone to give, and one person come to the front and he said, "I'm a changed person." So everyone was like, "Wow, that's so inspiring. Like, how did you change on this retreat?" He said, "I put on 10 kgs from all the food." We said, "Okay, we're happy you were fed very well, that's nice. But you should actually change." And perhaps the most simple way to understand I'm becoming Krishna conscious. You know what the most simple way? The most simple way to understand you're advancing in Krishna consciousness is that you're happy. That's it, finished. Are you happy? Sometimes. No, you can't be in Krishna consciousness and not happy. Not possible. So happiness, if you want to have a debate with anyone, the ultimate argument that nobody can defeat is your own happiness. I'm happy. No, but I don't believe in this. I'm happy. Once I was giving a talk and he was giving all kinds of atheistic arguments, and I said, but you're not happy. He said, "No, I'm happy." I said, "No, you're not." He goes, "No, I'm happy." I go, "No, I don't think you're happy." He goes, I'm happy." I said, so if you're happy, no one can argue with you. I felt a nursery rhyme coming on there. If you're happy, yeah. So happiness is no one can argue. So we should smile. Remember, sing, dance, smile. People don't smile enough in the world today, isn't it? They're miserable. Second question.
Second question is, actually it will pull this whole thing back, but let me ask that question. Old habits die hard. We have been in material world forever. 5 days in corporate world, some people, maybe I have to be at the front, then 2 days when I'm in my spiritual journey, or giving time to spiritualism, obviously I want to be at the back. But it's so tough to balance.
When you say be at the back, means like in a humble position, like not be like...
Yeah, at the front.
At the front, okay.
Because I might offend someone if I do it. Isn't it? Because in Krishna consciousness, and I asked this question a lot, so don't want to repeat it, but obviously you need to be humble, you need to be kind of behave in a different way. How do we balance this?
See, being like in Krishna consciousness, you can be at the front, you can be at the back, you can be in the middle, on the left or the right. It doesn't... No, I understand what you're saying. I explained what I'm saying. See, humility, sometimes being at the front is being humble. Being humble means to serve. I tell you, in my life, I never wanted to be at the front. Not because I was humble, because I was just shy. In my life, I never wanted to stick out. And then when I was like 15 years old, I became like 6'4", and I was like, oh my God. And I don't want to stick out, God, like, what are you doing? And then when I was 21, I decided, when I was 17, 18, then I got like serious about Krishna consciousness. I became Hare Krishna. Again, sticking out. And then when I was 21, I became a brahmachari, dressed in saffron. Again, sticking out. And then I became a sannyasi. I mean, sticking out, literally. Sticking. See? I mean, you walk around with one of these. I mean, you can't stick out more than this, You try walking around Heathrow Airport with one of these, People are like, what planet did you arrive from? I'm like, what to do? Like, it's part of the job, you know? I've got to carry a stick. What is that? Nowadays, I just tell people it's a walking stick. I go, it's a bit long to be a walking stick. I'm saying, just in case I grow taller. Just in case. Yeah. So in my life, I never wanted to stick out. And the last thing I wanted to do was public speaking. I don't, actually even now, my most authentic communication means is writing. But speaking we do because it's necessary. So, the way you practice these Vaishnava qualities is very, very deep. Your humility might be that you have to stand at the front. And you have to be humble. And you just have to do it in a mood of service. Your humility may be that you have to take a position. And then you do it with humility. And your humility may be that they tell you, there's no one to wash the pots. Can you go in the kitchen and do it yourself? And you'll do it. Who's humble? The one that wants to serve. The one that takes themselves out of the center. So yes, I know in the world there's so much ego. There's so much vanity. There's so much people trying to be above everyone else. And then sometimes we feel like we bring that again to the spiritual community. But what it means is that when we come here, remember, we should just look for service. And if you look for always for service, then all other qualities will follow. If you look for service and you're put at the front, it doesn't matter, you're still humble. Because you're looking for service. So, in your life, don't try to be happy, just try to serve. That's what one of my mentors told me. And if you do that, all the qualities will come. In service, you learn everything. Truthfulness, tolerance, humility, compassion, empathy, all good qualities, if you just try to serve. So when you come into the Sangha of devotees, just say, what can I do to serve? How can I serve? All right.
What is the best way to say thank you to God?
The question is, what is the best way to say thank you to God?
For everything.
Gratitude is on 3 levels. One is you recognize something has been done for you. That's the first stage of gratitude. Oh, God has done this for me. Higher than that is remembrance. Not just that God has done this for me, but you're constantly remembering. But higher than that is reciprocation. When the remembrance of what God has done for you goes so deep that you feel the need to then do something to reciprocate. In Sanskrit, the word for gratitude is krita gya. Gya means to know, and krita means what has been done. So krita gya, or gratitude in Sanskrit, etymologically, literally means to know what has been done for you. And when one knows how much God has done for them, then they realize, I have to offer something back. And that's the best way of saying thank you. What's the best way of saying I love you to someone? Is by actually doing something. If you're like to your wife, like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then she calls you like, I'm at the station, can you pick me up? Now I'm watching the football. Well, get out there and do something. So the best way to say thank you is to do something. And what can you do? We don't have much to give to Krishna. What can we give to Krishna? But the Bhagavatam tells us Etavad janma safalyam dehinam iha dehishu praner arthe diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. What can you offer to Krishna? Praner, your energy. You have some energy. Use it for Krishna. Diya, intelligence. You have some intelligence. You've made a career for yourself. Now use all of that intelligence for Krishna. Vacha, your words. Use your words to serve Krishna. And the final one that Shyam Govind told me to tell all of you, Artha, your wealth. Yes, you have some physical, some possession, some resource for you. Earn with integrity and then give with generosity. At the end of the day, it's all going to be taken away. Every last thing. So in our life, if we can give it in service, in a loving mood, with devotion, then your life becomes glorious. Otherwise, people just die with all these things under their name. And then everyone just comes. They say, where there's a will, there's a way. I say, where there's a will, there's a relative. Then what? Use it for service. In the Niti Shastra, there's a verse. The world has not seen a generous person like a miser. Because they give everything away without even touching it. You know why? Some of you are Gujarati here. In Gujarati, you know by kanjus. You know what a miser is, right? So you know why a miser gives everything away without touching it? Because in their life they make so much money, they don't spend one penny even for themselves. They don't touch any of that wealth, and then they die, and all of that wealth goes to everyone else. So they say the world hasn't seen a charitable person like a miser, because they give away every single last penny of their wealth without even touching it themselves. It's crazy. See, she agrees. So be generous. Say thank you. Praner arte diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. You have energy. Use it. Because that energy will deplete. You have intelligence. Use it. It's going to deplete. My brain cells are like quickly. I can feel it. Vacha, your voice also will go. And artha, it's all going. Don't take it away. Don't take it away. Another warning sign on taking away wealth. They say if there was in your past life, if there was someone that you cheated, then sometimes what happens is that in the next life that person comes back as your son. And what they do is smiling and laughing, Papa, Papa, Papa. They take everything away from you. This is called Rini Putra. These are the 4 types of son. So one type of son, they could be from a previous life, someone you cheated. They're smiling and laughing. You say, yes, yeah, for you, for you. They take away everything. You won't even know. So anyway, use it. Use it for something good. It's all disappearing. Our life is passing on. Yes. How are we doing for time? I don't want to also put anyone into a coma or anything.
I was just going to ask you, how long do you think you'll have at the end to meet devotees, roughly? What time do you need to leave by?
No, I'm okay.
Yeah? Okay, that's fine. Maybe we have 2 more questions if there are any. Yeah.
So I was going to say, we're going back towards absorption. So when we're reading Shastra, we don't absorb everything that's in Shastra. So ultimately, we remember some when we don't remember all of it. But as a rule, the Maha Mantra is there. So in my own point of view, is that if we are actually saying the Maha Mantra and is the key which imprints on our soul, it should eventually open the spiritual world with that key. So, do we need to absorb everything that we read in Shastra, or is the Maha Mantra
Is it enough?
that takes us to the spiritual world?
So the question is, sometimes we can't absorb everything that we hear or read, but ultimately it's about chanting the holy name. And if ultimately chanting the holy name will lead us towards spiritual evolution, then is there any need to absorb everything? Is that the question, right?
The scriptures say, Eka Krishna Nama Kare Sarve Papa Kshoy. Eka Krishna Nam. One name of Krishna is enough. Sarva Papa Kshoy. Nam no hi yavati shakti. Papa nirharane hare. No one cannot estimate the power of the name of Krishna. So the name of Krishna is enough. Doesn't need to be upgraded. Doesn't need any update. 1.1.17 install now. No. One time I was in Scotland and we were doing a Harinam, and someone came to me at the end. Harinam means when we sing on the street, and he said to me, I love you guys. You're always singing, you're always dancing, you're always happy, but don't you guys have any new songs? So I said, there's no need for any upgrade here. It works, it does the job, right? It's like a mantra. So, if the holy name is enough, then why all of these books with all this complicated philosophy? Why these people that sit in front of mics and just lecture us to death about all these points? Like, one time I was giving a class and someone said, it was a brilliant class. I said, why? He said, you ended on time. So it's like, sometimes it's austere to read, to hear all this, like, I'm not a scholar, I don't know all this Sanskrit, all this philosophy, the Bhagavatam, 18 volumes. My God, what am I going to do with all these books? So why did Prabhupada write them? Because we have so many doubts. Yes, you can chant the holy name and go back to Krishna, but tomorrow what if something happens in your life? Then we will be like, where's Krishna? Why did Krishna do this? Oh no, I can't do it. I don't know. Do I want to chant Krishna? I don't know. Like all these doubts. Therefore, the philosophy is there to make our intelligence strong. Because if your intelligence is strong, then your emotions will never overcome you. Have you noticed how we're very emotional? Put your hands up if you're emotional. Thank you. We're emotional. All it takes in the morning, if you wake up and someone looks at you a little bit funny, the whole day, why are they looking at me like that? Mind is very chanchal, isn't it? Haven't you noticed? Mind is very... There was a sign in one car, it said, do not disturb, already disturbed. The mind is so disturbed. We can't, even now we're sitting here, practically I can see. Everyone is wondering, tomorrow is Monday, tomorrow is Monday. All the anxieties of Monday morning are looming on you. I hated Sunday nights as a kid. I loved Friday evenings, I hated Sunday nights. Because also my first subject on a Monday morning was like history. Mrs. Turnbull. I still remember. Double, it was a double as well. double history on a Monday morning with Mrs. Turnbull. That was like, what's there? Well, how did I get there? Anyway, the point I'm making is that our mind, therefore when we read, then what happens is knowledge makes you peaceful. Because knowledge helps you to realize it's okay. There's something beyond this world. It's okay. Krishna has a plan. It's okay. Everything that happens always has something that it will help you to advance in. And when we're strong in our intelligence, then even when life throws many, many things, we still won't be shaken from the path. And therefore, sometimes if you read, but you may say, okay, that's all very good, but I'm reading, but it's not going in. It is going in. Even if you don't remember it. Today is Sunday, right? It's 8:05 on Sunday. Do you remember what you ate at 8:05 last Sunday? But you ate something. And it nourished you, and it means you're here today. But I don't remember what I ate. I don't remember the menu. It doesn't matter. You ate, and you nourished it, and you're here. So I don't remember what I read at 8:05 last week when I was reading the Bhagavatam. It doesn't matter. Because just by being with the Bhagavatam, just by being with the scripture, the heart becomes illumined. So it's very powerful. So therefore, please, please study the spiritual wisdom. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be 1,000,008 Parivrajacharya, Astotarasata, Sanskrit, Bhagavatacharya. You don't, it's fine. Just read. And it will nourish your soul. Okay, sorry, I'm just going on and on in a bit. All right, are we calling it a day here, or is there any last question? Okay.